All right, hello world. It's a little bit later than I usually do this. I didn't do it at all last week because it was President's Day. Things were busy. I want to read a poem. This is a poem by Pepper Trail. It's called A Walk in Winter. And I think I found it in Willowa Journal, so I'll put the link in. If I didn't find it there, I don't know where I found it. I found it a long time ago, last week, something like that. Anyway, so I wanted to read this poem and then maybe say a couple words about it. A Walk in Winter by Pepper Trail. The snow sets the trees apart. Black trunks rising from the white midwinter. These pines are sleeping, the business of growth, of pollen and seed suspended. But I know that within the frozen ground their roots still entwine. Like the fingers of sleeping lovers, unwilling to surrender touch. Only the smallest and largest birds break the silence, tiny kinglets. Invisible in the tall frosted crowns, let their calls drift down, high and sparkling, as the snow shaken loose by their foraging. And great ravens, rowing, restless above the canopy, croak and garble a language of dark poetry, resonant of blood, thievery, and brutal humor, searching always to fill their appetites, to occupy their minds. I walk onward, breaking the trail I must follow back to the beginning, finding here what I want, the grip of cold, the satisfaction of solitude, but not the reasons for that desire, my wish to be apart, to be asked no questions but my own, a mystery, whether taught or inborn, an inheritance or a lesson, this comfort found only among the trees. There's a cat running around here. Get going. Okay, so I wanted to say just a couple of things about this. And just talk about this. This is a poem that's in 3 stanzas. And let's talk about these individual stanzas. Let's talk about the first stanza. The first stanza is about the trees. Snow sets the trees apart. The snow sets the trees apart. Is the first line. But the last part of this is a beautiful image. Their roots still intertwine. I know that within the frozen ground, their roots still entwine, like the fingers of sleeping lovers, unwilling to surrender touch. So in this first stanza, we already have kind of, not a conflict, but something doesn't quite, it's not quite parallel, because we have, the trees are apart, but under the surface, they're touching. Like lovers, they're touching like lovers. Fingers entwined. Nice, nice. Second stanza talks about 2 birds. The smallest and largest birds break the silence. This is something that I think is that Pepper does very, I think, intentionally here, which is he doesn't describe the birds. The kinglets, they talks about their calls, and you only know that they're there because you hear them and then you see the snow from their falling from their foraging. And then the ravens, the great ravens, rowing, could be rowing, or if there's a, or if it's a, if it's a typo, it could be crowing. Restless above the canopy. So if I'm under these pines, I can't see them anyway, right? Listen to the way he describes the ravens. Croak and garble, a language of dark poetry, resonant of blood, thievery, and brutal humor, searching always to fill their appetites, to occupy their minds. This is a great way to describe a crow. I've read a lot of crow poems. And this does a great job of it. Two things I want to say about this. One is to fill their appetites, which is a phrase that has a variety of meanings. It could mean they're going to fill in their appetites because they're out to eat, or it could be other appetites, and to occupy their minds, which I think is also another very interesting phrase to put in here, particularly when we get to the last stanza. Let's talk about the last stanza, because this last stanza has a lot going on in it. I walk onward. So in this last stanza, the narrator, or the poet, puts himself into the poem itself. I walk onward. Breaking the trail, I must follow back to the beginning. Okay. Back to the beginning is another phrase, like the appetite phrase, which has a lot of connotations that you can put on it. You can hang on it. He's walking forward. He's breaking a trail, but he's got to follow backwards to the beginning. The beginning of what? We don't really know. Finding here what I want. Who else is trying to find things? Well, crows are. Crows are always searching always to fill their appetites. Now, I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that crows are also searching for things. Anyway, finding here what I want. This is what the narrator wants. The grip of cold, the satisfaction of solitude. This is not a poem that's got a lot of alliteration in it. Maybe one other instance of alliteration. Satisfaction of solitude calls out to me that I need to pay attention to this. And as I initially read this, it's one of those poems that you can read a number of times, and it reveals different things to you, right? The satisfaction of solitude. As I walk onward, breaking the trail I must follow back to the beginning, finding here what I want, the grip of cold, the satisfaction of solitude. The narrator, the poet, wants to find solitude. Next line. But not the reasons for that desire. You want to find solitude, but not for the reasons for that desire. My wish to be apart, to be asked no questions but my own, a mystery. Whether taught or inborn, an inheritance or a lesson, this comfort found only among the trees. I find this last stanza to be delightful because it's one of those stanzas that you can work around in your head to find it reveals different things. Is this narrator, this poet, wanting to just be alone? yes, but not for the reasons for that desire. You want to be alone, and desire is another word, like these appetites that these crows have. And the appetites, the desires, are words that have a similar flavor to them, right? So, the satisfaction of solitude, my wish to be apart, to be asked no questions, okay, but my own, a mystery. This question, or this comfort, so the comfort of being alone can only be found among the trees. But we already know that the trees are lovers and are touching each other. So I'm going to probably leave you with more questions than answers for this poem. But I'm going to say that this is one of those poems that you can kind of return to and see different things in. Because I'm going to give you this will be, whatever, for whatever it's worth. Trees are lovers, and they touch each other, but you can't see them. But you can't see it, right? They are unwilling to surrender. Touch. You have crows who have to fill their appetites and to occupy their minds. And we have a poet who wants to be alone, but he can only be alone and not be asked questions. He was within trees that are lovers. Anyway, that's that. Maybe we'll do this next week. Talk to you later.